You know, when we think about losing things in our homes, our minds usually go to the big stuff, fires, floods.
The really catastrophic events.
Exactly. Or maybe a pipe bursts while you're away on vacation. But there's this much slower, much quieter kind of destruction that happens.
A sneakier kind.
Totally. Picture this. You pull a wedding album off the shelf, one you haven't seen in, 5 years. You open it up, and the faces in the photos are sort of etched away.
Well, that's rough.
Or you grab a sweater from the back of the closet, and it looks like someone took, I don't know, a tiny little sander to the fabric.
It feels like a violation, really. And the first instinct for most people is to blame moths.
Right. Or if it's paper, maybe termites.
For sure. But today we're looking at a culprit that's, frankly, a lot older and stranger. We're doing a deep dive into this silverfish, Lepisma saccharina.
What does that mean? Sugar guest? Something like that.
Roughly, yeah.
Mm.
Or sugar runner.
Yeah.
And we're basing this whole conversation on a really fantastic guide from the team at Simple Pest Management.
Oh, right. They're based in California, aren't they?
They are. They cover everywhere from, say, the humid coast of San Diego all the way to the dry valleys around Sacramento. And their data really shows how common this insect is.
So our mission today isn't just to say, ew, a bug. We want to really understand the biology of a creature that has survived for 400 million years, which is a stat we have to unpack.
We really do.
And then explain why it's eating your wallpaper, of all things, and then break down how to, serve it an eviction notice.
And I'm glad you brought up the timeline first. 400 million years. I don't think people can really wrap their heads around what that means.
It sounds like a made-up number. That's before the T-Rex, right?
Oh, it predates the T-Rex by hundreds of millions of years. It predates flowers. It predates the Atlantic Ocean.
Wow.
So when we call them primitive insects, we don't mean they're simple or stupid. We mean they're the original prototype.
The first draft.
It was a biological design that just worked so well during the Devonian period that, nature just never bothered to update it.
That is the ultimate. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Precisely. And that design is what you're seeing scurrying across your bathroom floor at 2 in the morning. They're apterous, which just means wingless.
So they can't fly.
Nope. Insects didn't even evolve wings until much, much later. So these guys are a throwback to a time before flight was even an option.
So dinosaurs come and go, meteors hit the planet, ice ages happen, and the silverfish is just, hiding under a rock waiting for us to invent drywall?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
They are the ultimate survivors. And if you look at them, you can see why. They have that flat, carrot-shaped body. It's covered in those silvery scales, which lets them slip into cracks that are barely the thickness of a credit card.
And that's the key, right? That's the fish part of the name. I've heard people call them land shrimp, which is gross, but...
That's kind of accurate, yeah.
Yeah.
Land shrimp isn't too far off. But the name silverfish really comes from that wiggling motion.
It's not like a normal bug walk.
Not at all. Most insects have that sort of robotic tripod walk. Silverfish have this fluid, fish-like wiggle, and they're incredibly fast. It looks just like a fish swimming, but on your floor.
It is so unsettling when you see it.
It is. And they have those 3 bristles at the tail end, which are sensory organs. They can feel the air currents from you walking down the hall long before you ever see them.
So they're built for escape. But the Simple Pest Management Guide, what really struck me was their resilience. This isn't like an ant that needs to find a crumb every day or it dies.
Not even close. And this is why they're such a nightmare for homeowners. A silverfish can slow its metabolism way, way down. If the conditions are right, one can survive for up to a year without eating.
A full year. So you could leave your house empty for 6 months, come back, and they're just waiting for you.
Waiting and probably breeding. They're nocturnal, they're photophobic, which means they hate light, and they're totally silent. They are the ninjas of the pest world.
Ninjas, I like that.
Unlike roaches, who can be bold, or ants that leave those obvious trails, silverfish operate completely under the radar, behind baseboards, inside walls.
Which brings us to geography. I mean, if they're this tough, they can live anywhere. But the source material really zeroes in on California. Why there?
It's all about the environment. California offers this kind of unique dual threat situation for them. You have the coastal zones like San Diego County.
Right, lots of fog, high humidity.
Exactly. They absolutely need that. Their skin, their cuticle, it loses water very easily. So they thrive in about 75 to 95% relative humidity.
95% is basically a steam room.
It is. But think about the little microclimates in your house. A bathroom after a shower, that's 95%. A laundry room, easy.
Okay, so that makes sense for the coast, but what about the dry parts of the state, like Sacramento or Riverside?
That's the interesting part. You might think, oh, it's a dry heat, I'm safe.
Yeah, it's a dry heat defense, my favorite.
It doesn't work. Because in those dry areas, we tend to uh, engineer humidity into our homes by accident. Leaky pipes in a crawl space, condensation on an AC unit.
Oh, so they just find the one wet spot.
They find the oasis you've built them.
Yeah.
In some ways, an infestation can be even more concentrated in a dry area because they're all huddled around that one leaky pipe under your sink.
So once they move into their custom-built spa, they have to eat. And this is the part that I found really fascinating. They aren't just looking for, like, pizza crusts.
They'll eat pizza crusts, sure, but their real preference is for complex carbohydrates, specifically starches and cellulose.
Which for most of us just means paper.
Paper? Yes. But it's even more specific. They're often hunting for the glue holding the paper together. Old bookbinding glue is usually starch-based. It is a protein shake for a silverfish.
So that's why you find the damage deep in the spine of a book.
Exactly. They tunnel right through the binding to get to that paste. They literally debind the book from the inside out. You pull it off the shelf and the pages just fall out.
That is heartbreaking for anyone who loves books.
It really is. But they also eat the cellulose directly. So that means the paper pages themselves, cardboard boxes, even the paper on drywall.
The wallpaper example in the guide was particularly horrible. The thought that your wallpaper is peeling because something ate the glue off the back of it.
It's a classic sign, especially in older humid homes. If you see wallpaper bubbling in the middle of a strip, not at the edges, it's often because silverfish have been grazing on the paste underneath.
Just disconnecting your decor from the wall. And it's not just paper. The guide mentions textiles, clothes. But this part confused me a bit. Why eat a cotton shirt? I get that cellulose, but what about silk?
This is where it gets interesting. They're not always eating the fabric itself. They're eating what's called sizing.
Sizing.
Yeah, it's a starch-based chemical treatment they use in manufacturing to give fabric a certain stiffness or sheen. So they just graze across the surface of your nice silk blouse to eat the starch.
But they ruin the blouse in the process.
Exactly. Their mouth parts are designed for grinding, so as they scrape the surface, they're severing the threads. The other attractant is, well, it's us.
Oh no!
Body oils, sweat, skin flakes left on clothes. If you wear a shirt once, decide it's clean enough, and toss it in the back of the closet.
You've just served up dinner.
You have seasoned the meal for them, and they'll target the areas with the most sweat or food spills.
Which explains the weird, irregular holes. It's not a clean bite, it's more like a graze that just went too deep.
Right. We call it surface etching. If you hold a photograph up to the light and the glossy layer looks like it's been sandblasted in patches, that's silverfish. They love the gelatin sizing on old photos.
They're literally eating your memories.
They really are.
Okay, so we know what they look like, why they're here, what they eat. But since they're ninjas, how do we spot them before the wallpaper falls off the wall? What are the clues?
You have to be a detective. Since they're nocturnal, you're usually finding the crime scene, not the criminal. The first clue is frass. It's just the term for insect droppings. With silverfish, it looks like tiny specks of black pepper. You'll find it in the corners of drawers or on bookshelves.
And what about the yellow stains the guide mentioned?
That's a mix of their droppings and their scales. As they move, those silvery scales fall off. Over time, that stuff combines with moisture and leaves a yellowish stain on paper or fabric.
And they leave their skins behind, too.
Yes, they molt their entire lives. Most insects stop once they're adults, but silverfish just keep going. So you find these little translucent husks.
Translucent husks. Great. Okay, let's pivot to the solution. The eviction notice. I'm guessing you can't just ask a 400-million-year-old survivor nicely to leave.
You cannot. And the Simple Pest Management Guide is really clear that just spraying chemicals isn't the real answer. It has to start with the environment.
So changing the conditions that invited them in?
If you don't break the humidity cycle, you are wasting your time and money.
So how do you do that? We talked about that 75% humidity number. How do you get below that in, say, a coastal home in San Diego?
Dehumidifiers are non-negotiable. You have to get that ambient moisture down below 50%. At that level, silverfish eggs can't survive. They just dry out and die.
So you're stopping the next generation before it even starts.
Correct. And you also need ventilation. That bathroom spa, you have to run the exhaust fan during your shower and at least 20 minutes after. Pull that moisture out of the house.
And what about all our stuff? The guide was really hard on cardboard boxes.
Cardboard is the enemy. I cannot stress this enough. If you take one thing away from this deep dive, Get rid of your cardboard boxes.
Why are they so bad?
It's a perfect combination for them. The corrugated part, the little tunnels in the cardboard, provide shelter, and the paper and glue provide food.
It's a gingerbread house. They can eat the walls.
Exactly. You need to switch everything to plastic bins with good seals. It cuts off their food and their home in one move.
And what about cleaning? Is it just about being tidy?
It's more than that. Vacuuming is a weapon. You have to use the crevice tool along all your baseboards. You're not just getting dust, you're removing microscopic food sources. And, just as important, the eggs themselves.
And sealing up the house. Caulk and whatnot.
Exclusion, yeah. Go around your window frames, the gaps around pipes under the sink. If a crack is big enough for a piece of paper to slide into, a silverfish can get through. Seal it up.
This all sounds like a solid weekend project, but I imagine sometimes that's not enough. When do you call for backup?
The tipping point is persistence and spread. If you've done all that, you've cleaned, you've lowered the humidity, and 3 weeks later you're still seeing them, you have a deep-seated problem.
Or if they're in more than one room?
Right. Seeing one in the bathroom is one thing. But if you see one there, and then in the kitchen, and then in the bedroom, that means they're probably living and traveling inside the walls.
Which is when DIY is pretty much useless.
Exactly. And obviously, if you find them actively eating an heirloom, it's time to call in the pros.
Like Simple Pest Management. They cover a huge part of California, right?
Yeah, San Diego, Santee, Sacramento, Citrus Heights, Benicia. They can find those hidden spots a homeowner would just never see.
And I'm guessing they use treatments that are safer than whatever I'd grab at the hardware store.
Of course. It's about targeted treatment, not just fogging a room. They can use dusts and baits that go into the wall voids where the real problem is.
Speaking of their team, I have to mention my favorite part of reading their guide. We're reading this very serious technical guide, and we get to the author bio.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
The author is listed as Theodore Augustus Paulci.
A very distinguished name.
And then you see the photo, and it's a mini Bernedoodle.
He's the chief bedbug officer.
I just love that. It says he's in training for scent detection.
It adds a great touch of personality, doesn't it? But it's not just a gimmick. There's real science there. A dog's sense of smell it's thousands of times better than ours.
Right.
They're already widely used for detecting bed bugs. It shows the company is thinking about every tool available, not just chemicals.
So even if Teddy is mostly there for morale right now, it's a good sign.
Every office needs a good morale officer.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely canonizes the process.
So to zoom out, we have this ancient survivor. It wants to eat our history. It thrives in our homes. It feels like a constant battle.
That's a good way to put it. Our homes are made of organic materials, and nature wants to reclaim them. Silverfish are just one of the agents of that reclamation. They turn your books back into soil.
That is a remarkably dark thought.
It is. But it highlights why being vigilant matters. We keep these things, books, photos, because they're part of our story.
Right.
Protecting them from a 400-million-year-old scavenger is just part of maintaining that history.
Well, on that slightly existential note, maybe go check your bookshelves. If you pull one down and see a little dusting of powder or some jagged edges on the pages, don't ignore it.
Absolutely not. The longer you wait, the more of your history you could lose.
And if this deep dive made you look at your attic a little differently, or if you just found the science of these land shrimp interesting, do us a favor and follow or like the show. It really helps us keep doing this.
And for our listeners in California, if this all sounded a little too familiar, don't wait. Go find Simple Pest Management on social media. You can check in on Teddy the dog.
And if you need to serve that eviction notice, head to www.simplepest.com. They are the pros for a reason. Don't let the primitives win. Thanks for listening.
Stay dry out there.